Hello, Dan here, Brown Liquor Review number 32. And who would have guessed it? But number 32 is a very special one. Today, November 20th, 2016, it was released that the whiskey that I'm going to review today had won the World Whiskey 2016 award from Jim Murray. He writes the Whiskey Bible. And the interesting thing about this one is that it ended up being one that you could actually get. Usually the ones that he chooses aren't the easiest to find. So whenever I heard what had won, I looked up our local liquor store online, and believe it or not, there was like 50 bottles there. And then I looked at all the other stores in my county, and there was at least 50 bottles in each one, which is extremely rare, especially for a Whiskey of the Year award winner. When I went to go buy it, couldn't find it on the shelf, so I asked the store manager, and he's like, "Well, I have it right over here." And he was like, I've had these like 6 cases for the past 6 months, and nobody has bought it, and nobody has asked for it. But in the past 24 hours, it's starting to sell pretty quick. Okay. And we'll get back to that a little bit later. Whenever a whiskey wins that award, it becomes highly coveted all of a sudden. So, without further ado, the World Whiskey Award winner was Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye. Surprised? I surely was. Turns out that there's never been a Canadian whiskey that has won his award before. And I thought that maybe if a Canadian whiskey did win this award, it wouldn't come from pretty much one of the largest producers of whiskey in Canada. I thought it would be more of a craft version, especially maybe something from 40 Creek or something like that. I have to admit, I've never bought a bottle of Crown Royal in my life. And so, this is a different experience. I can't tell you how happy I am for Canadian whiskey. I think that it's a really big deal for them. It surely is. And so what I wanted to do was basically give a short review of this, and then talk about the ramifications of winning an award like this. And so we'll get into it. I will say that one, it's attainable, which is weird for a whiskey or world whiskey winner. World whiskey winner. Say that 3 times. But unlike any other one, it's also very affordable. So this one was $27.99, and I've heard other people say as low as $22. So what Jim Murray did is, I guess he found a diamond in the rough. Though the rough is, Crown Royal, one of the biggest producers. You get this fancy bag, which I hung right back here. You got a nice little box that came with it. So it's all the glam that you get when you buy a bottle of Crown Royal. So what I wanted to do was just kind of let you guys know whether or not you should buy this or not. And so here we go. Nose. As you can right off the bat, it's obvious to tell that this really is something special. The nose is spicy and sweet and rich. You get the maple candy, baked apples, roasted nuts, nutmeg, and caramel. In there somewhere is some citrus notes, which really kind of cuts the richness and makes it that much more interesting. You certainly get vanilla extract, rich butterscotch, but you can also tell it's somewhat young. It kind of smells like cut hay as well. Cheers, eh? It's silky. It's smooth, especially for a 90% rye whiskey. I didn't mention that. This is a blended Canadian whiskey, as basically almost all of them are. I don't know what the other 10% is. I would wager it would be corn, or I don't think it's barley, but that's just my opinion. You can tell it's young, and there are cereal notes. There's a grainy bite to it. You get nice, like mellow flavors, like toffee. But it's also very apparent that it's 90% rye, but it's not the rye that you're used to if you're a bourbon drinker or a rye drinker. This one is pretty mellow. They do a pretty cool job of telling you about the rye that they source. So it's basically planted in the fall. Goes all the way through winter, and then they finish it off in spring and early summer. Well, so it's a very hardy grain, and I think that the harshness of the Canadian winters probably mellows out the rye bite. But overall, you certainly get rye spice, but it's on a much more mellow level. When I first opened this bottle, the first couple of drams I had, there was a kind of an off-putting aftertaste, like an aspartame or saccharin kind of thing that like kind of coats the sides of your tongue. You only have one tongue. And at first I thought it was pretty off-putting, but over the course of time, that kind of goes away. So it smells good and it tastes good, all while completely representing Canadian whiskey. I mean, this is distinctly Canadian. Okay, it's not bourbon, it's not Scotch, it's not Irish. It's distinctly Canada and what they do. Somehow in Canadian whiskey, I always get touches of maple. That real mellow sweetness, kind of cooked down, caramelized. That must be something to do with the wood they use. I'm not sure, but it is delicious. Since it won the award that it did, and since pretty much anybody right now, if you went out right now, you could get a bottle of this easily. I think because of that, that's such a unique situation. This one's really going to be a conversation starter. There's no doubt that it's good. I mean, it's definitely really good. But if you've never drunk Canadian whiskey before, that new experience might sway your opinion because it's not quite like any others. People are going to talk about, well, how can it be the best world whiskey? And that's up to you. I mean, that's your opinion. Okay? Like I said, at first, when you first open the bottle and you take a sip, the finish on it is pretty rough. Overall, you can still tell this is a fairly young whiskey. So I would say that although it's smooth, I mean, this thing is really easy to drink. It can still be challenging, and to find, I guess, what Jim Murray found in it is not quite as simple as maybe you would think it is. So it's good. Is it the best whiskey in the world? It's up to you to determine that. I've had better this year. I was lucky enough to just get a couple bottles of Elmer T. Lee bourbon, and if it was up to me, something like that would win. One thing that crossed my mind, and then when I was reading some of the things online, was this product is owned by Diageo, which is basically one of the biggest corporation conglomerates in the whiskey world, and it's Crown Royal. So the fact that Crown Royal won this award is a little bit, I mean, it's quite a surprise. Some of the people that I've read out there are saying, did Diageo pay him off? And of course I cannot speak to that, and I know that that's just the opinions of others, but what I do know is that there's a ton of it available, but it won't be for long, because Jim Murray said it was the best whiskey in the world. So people are certainly going to go and buy it. And if you're into conspiracies, or if you watch V for Vendetta too much, you might have similar suspicions. I like to think that, of course, that did not happen. It is a very good whiskey. I would tell you, as soon as possible, it's the weekend, go and buy this before it's all gone. Most likely you're not going to get it at the price point next time that this one was, what this one was at, which was $20 to $30 at the most. You could probably bet on it being at least $10 more the next time. And overall, I would give this a brown liquor score of 88. This is definitely a top 3 Canadian whiskey that I've ever tasted. And so I hope that you go out, and I hope that you buy it, and I hope that you form your own opinion about it. I hope you give it time in the glass, and I hope that you just basically enjoy yourself, because that's really what whiskey's all about. Okay? So, once again, World Whiskey Award winner right here, guys. Go out and try some. Let me know what you think. Prost.